Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is January 8th, 2025. I know for those of us that have purchased the Iraqi dinar and some of the other currencies, we thought that this would all be done a long time ago. Frankly, in my opinion, it should have been done a long time ago. And in my opinion, it was the United States that had a lot to do with this taking so long. But be that as it may, we are where we are. Things are looking very good, and I think we're going to have a very good month. I'm going to dispense with any disclaimer about the Iraqi dinar. I don't think it's any longer necessary. I was issuing a disclaimer largely because it was at the request of our attorneys. It was just a CYA thing that they did, but we always communicated the fact that the dinar was, of course, a speculative currency and a program rate. But I think for those of us that have been paying attention, that's pretty much no longer the case. I expect to see the Iraqi dinar reinstated, revalued, international, on the Forex, however you want to slate it, this month. And I think that the inauguration of Donald Trump has done nothing but help the process along. As a matter of fact, Trump has pretty much read the Middle East Riot Act since his re-election. He said that by January 20th, he wants to see the return of all hostages. He wants Iraq free from Iranian influence. He has, in fact, sent an emissary to Baghdad to discuss the specifics. And in turn, Iraq then sent an envoy to Tehran, and now the Iranians want to talk peace. So history does repeat itself. This is very reminiscent of what happened with the election of Ronald Reagan. And the children in Iran know that daddy's home, so it's time to play nice. It's no more complicated than that. Donald Trump's response to these overtures by Iran, and the only reason I'm bringing up Iran is because Iran's been intricately involved in the affairs of Iraq for 20-some years, ever since the fall of Saddam Hussein. And we finally have a president that's going to put his foot down and say no more. But Donald Trump's response was, first, no nukes. He stated publicly that Iran would not possess a nuclear weapon. What he's saying is if you get to the point where you actually can produce a nuclear weapon, even if you're not capable of delivering it, he's going to end that. He's also told Iran, stay out of the affairs of Iraq. He's told Iran and its proxies to stop harassing Israel. And he's told them to stop funding all of their proxies. So this is all good news, because part of the problem in Iraq has been the interference of Iran. And Donald Trump's pretty much thrown down the gauntlet, and that's good news. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on actually in Iraq, and I want to talk first about the Sudani and, of course, the CBI operations. Sudani made a promise last year, early in the year, that the citizens of Iraq would see purchasing power this year, meaning 2024. Now, behind closed doors, this has all been done, but the last thing, which is to actually deliver the purchasing power to the Iraqi citizens on the street, unfortunately, he was not able to get done by December 31st of 2024. That, however, was not his fault. Despite his best efforts, the foot-dragging by members of parliament and some other complications made it difficult. But I don't think anyone will hold that against the man if what happens, or if what I think is going to happen in the month of January does in fact happen. We have the HCL, the budget, and the new salaries all delayed because we need a new rate. So what Soudani said is that he's going to trigger an operational budget between the 7th and the 9th of this month, which is basically right now, and he's going to proceed. Now, the Parliament does have some obstructionist people who are finally coming to terms with the reality that this thing is going to happen, that Iraq is going to be an independent, sovereign nation, that the wealth of Iraq is going to dwarf that of the other Middle Eastern nations, inclusive of Iran. And so Iran has basically to get with the program, because if they continue down the path that they're going, their government's going to be removed, either through an external force or through the people of Iran finally saying they've had enough. During the Obama administration, that was very close to happening. But unfortunately, Obama made it clear that he was not going to assist the citizens of Iran. And so the removal of the government didn't happen. I don't want to get into the motivations of Obama, but he's pretty much ancient history. And so let's dispense with any discussions of him. So Soudani has seen, or has overseen rather, the elimination of the dollar in country for the citizens. He has overseen the transformation of their banking system, this along with the CBI, to digitized banking. The elimination of the auctions on December 21st means that the sale of the dollar will be replaced with a completely different system, meaning that the CBI will not be selling money to the banks. Iraqi banks will be getting their money from outside sources. So the only thing that the CBI will be doing from now on is monitoring the transactions of the private banks, not dictating to them through the auctions how they're to operate. So we're moving finally to a digitized system where they can operate the banks, that is, independently, and through currency swaps and other things, they're going to be able to operate without the artificial use of the U.S. dollar in replacement of a currency that's in a program rate. What's going to happen after that? Well, the IQD will go into a basket, and it'll go onto the Forex at a rate as yet undetermined. However, we know that whatever the rate is going to be on the Forex is going to have to very quickly move to certain threshold rates. I've discussed them in the past. The dinar was, one dinar was worth $3.22 when it went into the program rate. That was 20 years ago. The country was in shambles. So given what's transpired over the last 20 years and factoring in inflation, it's certainly very conservative to assume that the Iraqi dinar would hit 322. Some of the currency speculators that I work with have done some extrapolations based on the Kuwaiti dinar and said, in their opinion, the equilibrium rate, in other words, the rate where the Iraqi dinar would eventually settle, in their opinion, is about $4.85. I've been saying for years that I thought the Iraqi dinar would be north of $4. Hopefully that will be the case. Now, there is something called velocity that we all have to be concerned with. And what do I mean by that? Velocity is when something increases in value and then individuals that are late to the game start buying it, and it increases, but it's not increasing in an organic sense. It's sort of synthetic. It overvalues. That happened with the Kuwaiti dinar. I think the Kuwaiti dinar went up over $7 before it dropped back down to about $3.46. Well, the Iraqi dinar could very easily be a double digit, meaning that it would be worth $10 or more before it would drop back down to that equilibrium price, which again, the individuals that I talk to say certainly north of $4 and about $4.85. But again, that would be based on Basel compliance. That would be based on the known natural resources of Iraq, and I've argued and discussed this at length. Per square mile, it can be argued that Iraq is the richest country in the world. Geopolitically, it's where it's located too. It's basically the gateway between the East and the West. So the country is double and triple blessed, and that should be reflected in the value of their currency. Now, let me talk a little bit about Parliament, even though Parliament should rightfully take a back seat in all of this, but they have managed to get involved to some degree, although they haven't had a session for months. They're scheduled to be back in session, I think, on the 9th. And, of course, that's going to be the prerequisite for the final touches that need to be placed on the budget, the HCL, and, of course, the resumption of salaries through the CBI. So they're looking at an oil and energy committee moving oil through Baghdad and throughout, rather than having to go through Turkey. Despite the fact that the sessions for the Parliament had stopped for months, again, they're going to restart, and they're talking about the 9th of this month. And, of course, what's got to be on the agenda are, of course, the budget, HCL, and the salaries. Now, what do those three things have in common? They need a rate. So the mere fact that Parliament is saying that those are on the agenda means that they know that there will be a new rate from which they can then proceed with these issues. Shortly after that, of course, or at the same time with that, we'll see the release of the new category small notes. Then there's Salih, who's Sudani's financial advisor. He oversees transactions through the digital platform. He is one of the individuals that releases final instructions to the citizens. He's announced that the non-oil revenues for 2024 were double-digit. And remember, it was diversification of revenue to the country, which was going to be one of the prerequisites for the reinstitution and revaluation of their currency. So basically what he's saying is everything that needed to be done in order for the Iraqi dinar to be reinstated and to be placed on the Forex is completed. CBI operations. They're no longer selling money to the banks. Auctions have now been replaced with their currency window. The digital banking system will allow them to operate internationally. So what we can expect in January, and I think one of the reasons I'm kind of bullish about January is because the United States, for better or worse, has been involved in everything that's transpired in Iraq since the removal of Saddam Hussein. And, of course, they were instrumental in the removal of Saddam Hussein. But with the inauguration of Donald Trump, I'll even go back to Donald Trump's first term. Remember what his complaint was. We were running trade deficits with countries like China who were artificially devaluing their currencies. And what Trump wanted was a quote-unquote equal playing field. What he was talking about was Basel compliance. And by only dealing with countries that are valuing their currencies properly, can we establish a proper trade arrangement? And countries that are uncooperative about that, he will simply tariff. And he even went back and talked about the golden age before we created the Federal Reserve, where the United States government was able to operate on what? Tariffs and bonds. He's also sort of signaling that if he's not going to remove the federal income tax, he's going to substantially reduce it. And he's already taking things off the field that were taxable, like tips, overtime, things like that. He's going back to the golden age. I've discussed this before, a period of time between roughly 1880 and 1910, before the creation of the third and final central bank, the Federal Reserve. It was also referred to as the Gilded Age. It was the age where the United States became a wealthy, and I would argue, superpower. And we were able to do it without the Federal Reserve, without a federal income tax. So if we were able to do it then, we're going to be able to do it again. Now, we're going to be doubly blessed because if he's able to accomplish all of that, that's going to enhance our ability to grow the wealth that we are about to receive through the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. And I've said this in the past as well. The Iraqi dinar, to me, is the first domino to fall. There are a lot of other countries that have currencies in a program rate. There are other countries that have artificially devalued their currencies, and all of that's hopefully going to stop. So we are very, very well positioned for a lot of reasons to be very thankful that we purchased Iraqi dinar. And I think what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks is the Iraqi dinar going into a basket and shortly thereafter going on the Forex. And again, once it hits the Forex, it's going to hit that equilibrium price probably within a matter of days, because the secret, there is no secret any longer. Iraqi dinar is no longer considered a scam. People are still trying to purchase the Iraqi dinar. I get texts all the time, hey, I've decided to buy some dinar. Where can I get it? All of a sudden, people are beginning to understand, hey, this is for real. Hey, there's some money to be made here. Iraq is making serious progress. So that's pretty much where we are today. If you're a holder of Iraqi dinar, you should be very happy with where we are. If you're not a holder of Iraqi dinar and you've been beginning to pay attention to the things that are being said about it, you might want to try to pick up some to the extent that it's going to even be available. We're not going to have a conference call. I'm going to very briefly discuss the package that we've put together. For those of you that have not at least ordered the initial package to understand what it's about. But given everything that's going on in this country and where I think things are going, I mean, this trust product is a product that we've utilized for our more affluent clients for years. We decided to mass market it to denarians for the reasons I'll explain in a moment. But if you're a denarian or you're an individual who wants to protect your wealth, then this is the vehicle that you need to use. I've discussed LLCs, sub-S corporations, family limited partnerships, and the advantages that some of them provide. There's absolutely, positively, unequivocally, in my opinion, nothing that protects your privacy and your wealth more than the establishment of an asset protection trust package. It's what affluent individuals use. It's what knowledgeable individuals use. And ironically, for people like us that hold dinar, it's something that people use to transfer assets to in anticipation of that asset becoming a substantial increase in value. Very simply, you establish our package. You protected your privacy and your anonymity. That means the assets within that trust package are sealed. No one knows your holdings, your net worth. The asset will allow you to avoid personal IRS scrutiny. The business activities are going to occur within the trust. You're merely the beneficiary of the trust. The trust even allows you to gift currencies to family and friends and control the post-RV proceeds. That same approach also allows you to place assets in the trust and then allow friends and family members the use of those assets while you still own and control that asset. This trust will allow you to avoid the cost, delay, and exposure of probate when you pass your estate on to heirs, and this trust will allow you to avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 65% of your entire estate, in excess of $12 million. But if the assets are in trust, this trust, there is no federal estate tax, meaning you would transfer to your heirs 100 cents on the dollar of what you've accumulated over your lifetime. This trust package also provides certain asset protection benefits both pre- and post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What do I mean by that? Let's say you have 10 million dinar, you paid $10,000 for it. You transfer those currencies, assign those currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue, and let's say for $1, for $10 million. So you transferred $10,000 of property, the currencies, to the trust. They revalue, and now you have $10 million in trust. Can you be sued for $10 million? No. Why? Because you don't own that currency. The trust does. And when you transferred the currencies out of title, they were only worth $10,000. So that's all you can be sued for. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. Very simply, it's this. As you acquire assets, homes, cars, boats, etc., you place each of those assets in their own separate sub-trust to be managed by the initial master trust that you set up pre-RV. So if one of those rental properties or cars or boats is involved in an accident or there's some issue that may involve litigation, it only involves that one asset because the other assets are in separate sub-trusts, which under the law are separate entities or persons. So this is perhaps your last opportunity to establish this trust as a denarian. As an American citizen who doesn't hold currencies, you can set the trust up at any time, and you certainly can if you're a denarian. But if you're a denarian, you want to establish the trust and transfer the currencies on paper to that trust before the revaluation for all of the reasons that I stated. No one will even know you possess the wealth because you possess the currency today. It's worth virtually nothing. To the extent that people know you have the currency, some of them are still rolling their eyes saying, what the hell are you doing? Well, you know what you're doing. But you transfer the currencies to the trust, they revalue. No one knows that you have that wealth. They'll figure it out when they start seeing you driving around, a 1964 Aston Martin, or you have a beach house and a lake house and a mountain home. They'll start to figure it out, but of course it's a little late for them. So if you contact us, we'll be happy to send you our initial package. It's a no-obligation package. And you can review the package. Contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. But again, it may be a matter of weeks that you have to get this done. One of the reasons I'm not having a Q&A here and I'm moving quickly through this call is because my phone's blowing up, my text's blowing up, the emails are blowing up, because people really believe that we are here or we're very close, and they want to at least get the initial package to understand why they need to establish the trust pre-RV. People are going to be contacting us after the revaluation to set up trust because they're going to call a conventional lawyer or estate planner who will say, yeah, you should put your assets in trust, and they're right. But still, the horse is out of the barn because the best thing to do is establish the trust and get the currencies out of title into the trust before they revalue. And God willing, you've only got a couple of weeks to get that done. That's pretty much all I wanted to say for today. The things we've discussed are of interest to you. I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. You can contact us either by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. Or our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. Request our trust package. It'll go out hopefully that very day. We're very busy, but we're on top of this, and that's unfortunately another reason why I can't do a Q&A today. But I've got to get back to the phones. But things are looking very, very good for the United States. Things are looking very, very good for our domestic economic growth. Things are looking very, very good globally, which means once we go to the bank and exchange these currencies, we're going to have a very positive investment environment to then continue to grow that wealth. So that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss for today. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature happens between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email, put it on our website, and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and pay close attention, because things are happening. Take care. Bye-bye now.